What's up, guys? I am J. Remy the Guardian, and I'm bringing you an in-depth guide on how to solo the Prophecy Dungeon today. This guide will go over each of the different classes, the weapons you should be using, the mods you should be using for weapons and armor, and how each encounter should play out for you. I will be having gameplay of me doing this on a Titan in the background, but I will discuss all the other classes. And once I am done discussing a certain encounter, I will just let the gameplay play out in the background for you. To start, I want to go over each of the different classes and what subclasses I would recommend as most useful for this. The gameplay you'll see in the background is going to be done primarily on a Titan. I found this easiest on a Titan personally, but you can do this on any class. I know Warlock is pretty easy to do it on, and that's because Warlock you have the Devour build, which is just so good, and there's nothing else on Warlock I would recommend you use other than Devour personally. For Titan, I would recommend using Top Tree Void, and there's a few reasons for why Top Tree Void is so good. First, you obviously get Bubble, which is really good for any damage phase when you want to deal damage to a boss. But you also have a great melee ability in Defensive Strike, which states that if you get a powered melee kill, you will get an Overshield, and that Overshield can really help you out in really tight spots. You also have another perk called Rallying Force, which will give you a bit of your health back on any melee kill. Not powered, so if you get a melee kill, you are good to go. And I find that to be really helpful, as I'm also pairing my Titan with Dune Marchers. Dune Marchers gives you linear actuators, which after sprinting for a short amount of time, you will get linear actuators, the buff, and when you melee someone, it'll send a spark of lightning energy across all of the other enemies, dealing damage to them that are nearby. This is great for ad clear, and it can really help clear out an area, giving you health back, giving you an overshield if you have a fully charged melee, and just helping you out of tight spots if you need it. On Hunter, I would suggest either Top Tree Void or Top Tree Arc. Top Tree Void is going to be really great because you have a Void Grenade that can use Oppressive Darkness. You can have Tether, which will debuff a boss and just helps if you're in a tight spot and you want to clear out a ton of ads. And you can dodge to go invisible, which is all great, but I personally think there's a better option. Top Tree Arc is, in my opinion, the best subclass for Hunters. Its melee ability is really great, and it gives you combination blow anytime you get a powered melee kill. This powered melee kill goes up to 3 stacks and increases your melee damage. And every time you melee someone, you get your dodge back, whether you have a powered melee or a non-powered melee. So what you can end up doing is put on Gambler's Dodge to give you your melee back, punch, dodge, punch, dodge, punch, dodge, and you're always having your melee ability. And that's all great, and then we're going to pair that with Assassin's Cowl, which finishing an enemy or meleeing an enemy will give you invisibility for a moment and will also regen your health for you. So that's a really great way to get out of tight spots and get your health back and be able to just reset if you need to. So I would personally go with that, but I know a lot of people enjoy Top Tree Void as well, so either one would work. On Warlock, you want to use Bottom Tree Void, so that way you have Devour. Devour procs when you get a powered melee kill, and it restores your health. And every kill after that, whether it's with a melee or your weapon or a grenade, will refresh the buff for Devour, giving you another 10 seconds of it. You can also proc Devour, though, by eating your grenade by holding down your grenade button. This is a great way to regen your health if you get in a tight spot. And some of the weapons we're going to be using will help us to get that grenade back extremely fast. I would recommend Nezarec Sin for your exotic because void kills will refresh your grenade and melee energy, and that's just dope. Even though we're not going to be using a void energy weapon, it is still going to give you your grenade back super fast, and any little bit of that is going to help you out there. Let's talk about what weapons we're going to be using. For primary, I really think you want to go with Mountaintop if you have it. Mountaintop is just too good at too many things to pass up. But you will see me actually using Wither Horde for the first encounter here, and I'll explain why in a little bit. For your energy weapon, the energy weapon I suggest above all others is the Ikelos SMG, which you can get from CQC-focused Umbral engrams this season at the Prismatic Recaster. The reason I'm suggesting the Ikelos SMG is because of its ability to create Warmind cells, which can be really beneficial for clearing out ads, as we will discuss in a little bit. The role you're going to want to have on it is Threat Detector in your first perk column because of its ability to give us a really fast reload speed if we're surrounded by 2 enemies, and it also gives us a bonus to stability and handling, but we're really looking at the reload speed. In your second column, you're going to want either Surrounded or, in my opinion, what is better, Demolitionist. And there's a few reasons why Demolitionist is so good. Demolitionist on its own, when we throw a grenade, it reloads our weapon for us, and any kills with our weapon will give us grenade energy back, allowing us to get our grenade back in about 8 kills with just Demolitionist. However, we can pair this with a perk called Breach Resonator, which we will put on our armor, and that perk says, getting kills with a barrier-piercing weapon will regen your grenade and melee ability. So, what we'll end up doing is putting barrier rounds on our Ikelos SMG, and this allows us to get our grenade back in just 6 kills, which is super beneficial, especially for Warlock when you're rocking that Devour build, and it makes it just so easy to always have your grenade and always be throwing it out, clearing out ads, using it for whatever you need to, and I just think it is the best option personally. Obviously, another good option would be something like the Recluse, and that's a great option. You can put the barrier rounds on it as well. However, Recluse cannot make Warmind cells, and I really think if you can, you should utilize the Warmind cells. So if you don't have this SMG, go ahead and go try and farm for it. If not, and you don't want to do that, use Recluse. It's a great option. I also found the Nation of Beasts, which you can get from the Last Wish raid, to be really good. The curated role especially, which has Outlaw Dragonfly on it, can really help clear out ads, but I don't think it's as good of an option as the Ikelos SMG or Recluse. Another good option would be a Gnawing Hunger with Rampage or any auto rifle with Rampage. The benefit of that is you get more damage, which means you can clear out ads faster, which really helps. But again, the best option you can go for is the Ikelos SMG. For our heavy weapon, we are going to be using Anarchy and Falling Guillotine. Anarchy is just insane for this because of its ability to do so much for us. It can be a big damage dealer for bosses because you can stick 2 grenades on them and then switch to another weapon and keep doing damage, always having that damage over time. But if you put the Anarchy shots down in the right way, you can clear out a ton of ads just with that alone. This also is able to kill a knight with just 1 Anarchy grenade on it. It takes a while, but it can be done, allowing you to move around the arenas without having to focus on the knights as much. It can also, in the Wasteland, take out the blights that you need to destroy in 1 Anarchy grenade hit, which is a great option, so I would recommend Anarchy. Fallen Guillotine is going to be your best option for the first boss encounter against the Phalanx Echo. This is because it does an insane amount of damage, and the boss fight itself does not have a lot of risk involved with using a sword. So go ahead, put your sword on, go to town on that first boss, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. I also like using that weapon for the Hexahedron Encounter, or the Square Room of Rotating Death, as I like to call it, because you can clear out acolytes really quickly, and you can kill knights very fast. So Fallen Guillotine is a great option for the first few encounters. If you don't have either of those, I would recommend something like Xenophage or any other grenade launcher with spike grenades or auto-loading holster. They're great options, they're easy to use, and they do big damage, and they will help you out of tight spots. So use any of those, but your best options are going to be Anarchy and Fallen Guillotine. For our mods on our weapons, any legendary weapon besides the Ikelos SMG, put on Taken Spec. Taken Spec is better than Boss Spec because it gives a higher percentage of damage increase than Boss Spec. And you can use that against all other ads as well. And seeing as everything in this dungeon is taken, it is the best option for you. For our armor, we have a few different mods we're going to be putting on. First, I would recommend 2 minor resists, 2 major resists, and 1 concussive dampener mod. The reason for that is there are a lot of minor ads, and it will decrease your damage that is being dealt to you immensely. Major resists will help with the knights that are attacking you, as will concussive dampener, which will decrease the area of effect damage you take, which helps a lot with the fire that the knights are going to be spewing out all the time. I would also recommend putting Taken Barrier on if you can. You can get Taken Barrier from the Last Wish raid, and what it does is every time you get hit by a taken enemy, it will start giving you more damage resistance against taken enemies. And seeing as everything in here is a taken enemy and you're going to be only being hit by taken enemies, it's a great option. Hive Barrier also works against Hive Taken, but I don't think it's as useful as Taken Barrier. So if you can put it on a piece. As we talked about earlier, find a place for Breach Resonator in your armor. It is a 1 energy mod, so you should have room for it, and it is excellent for this. We're going to be putting on Grenade Launcher Loader and Light Arms Loader to help us reload our Grenade Launcher faster when we get to damage, and reloading our SMG faster, which will boost up even more when we have Threat Detector active. The next mods we should put on are Global Reach and Burning Cells. Global Reach is a necessity for its increased damage area for Warmind cells, essentially giving you a mini nuke that you can pop anytime to clear out a ton of ads. What Burning Cells does is gives a solar burn damage to that will damage enemies left up after it explodes, which helps you to clear out maybe a few more if you haven't cleared them all out. Put on Grenade Launcher Ammo Finder and Grenade Launcher Scavenger, as you will be using grenade launchers for most of this, and this will give you ammo all over the place. I also was able to fit a heavy ammo finder on my build, which helped me get more heavy ammo back, and I was able to put Enhanced Sword Scavenger from the artifact on my armor, but I don't think that's as important because you'll only be using your sword for the boss encounter that comes first, and you should have full sword ammo during that anyways. But if you can fit it, go ahead and fit it on. Finally, Lucient Blade is going to be necessary for the first boss encounter, along with an arc mod slotted into the same armor piece. The reason for this is that it will increase the charge time on your sword immensely, giving you the ability to do more heavy attacks. You'll be able to do a heavy attack, 5 light attacks, and then a heavy attack again, which is excellent damage and is absolutely necessary. Now, with all of our weapons and mods out of the way, let's jump in to the first encounter of the dungeon. The first encounter is the hallway where you have to kill the knights and cleanse the plates that the light and dark essences are shimmering on. You can skip this encounter on Titan and Warlock by sword climbing up the holes in the ceilings, but for the sake of this guide, we are not going to be doing that and just showing people how to run through this room as you normally should. But if you want to sword climb, go ahead and get your sword and you can skip this entire encounter. For this room, the most important thing I would recommend is kill the thrall before you go after the knights. You don't necessarily have to, but it helps you to not be overwhelmed. Other than that, make sure you know where you're standing so that you get the motes that you need from the knights. Apart from that, this encounter is pretty simple. There are 2 rooms. Clear the rooms, cleanse the orbs, and then move up the hill to the first real encounter. For the first encounter against the Taken Phalanx, in the gameplay you'll see I'm using Witherhoard. Now, I liked Witherhoard for this because you could lay it down on the ground and clear out a ton of ads easily, but I do personally think Mountaintop is the better option. Just know I'm using Witherhoard in the background, but I would probably recommend Mountaintop over Witherhoard. That's just my opinion. This encounter is where you will need Fallen Guillotine to do great damage to the boss. You are able to potentially get a one phase against this boss, but we are not trying to go for one phase as we're trying to finish this. So don't feel like you have to push your luck to get the one phase on the boss. If it's taking too much risk, it's not worth it. You're trying to survive this dungeon, hopefully flawless it. So just go for as much damage as is safe for you to do. When you start the encounter, go off to the left of the arena behind the two pillars where you have the light and dark essences floating in the air. This is a great place to hide from all the ads, as they mostly won't come back here except when knights get really aggroed to you. You can control a lot of the ads throughout this and take them out when you need to, and stay there and regen health and just stay alive. When you get over there, instead of going towards where you came from to get to this encounter, go opposite of that where a knight spawns out in the middle, and take that knight out first to get what should be dark motes. Collect the dark motes, go back there, kill another knight to get more dark motes, and then repeat the process until you have collected all the motes you need. Take your time during this, as you don't want to get overrun by scions. I would say it's more important to take out the scions first, then get your motes, because you don't want to be getting shot up while you're trying to dunk the motes, as you don't have any way to defend yourself during this. Once you've dunked, go hide and reset, and then go get more motes. Once you've cleansed all of the platforms, it's time for damage. What I did is throw my bubble down on top of the Phalanx, then throw my Oppressive Darkness grenade, and then I start attacking with my sword. What you want to do is do one heavy attack, then 5 light attacks, then another heavy attack. Another important thing during this fight is to make sure you're not hitting the boss's shield. If you hit the boss's shield, you'll do no damage, vastly decreasing your DPS for the entire phase. Once goblins start spawning, your damage is going to go down a lot, because what you need to do is focus on taking out the goblins closest to you and the boss so that they can't make him immune. Kill them, go inside the bubble, and then start damaging the boss again. If your bubble disappears, I would say don't risk more damage at the chance of dying, because if you don't get the one phase, you will probably die. But if you can do it and you feel confident, go for it. Just know it's a risk I personally don't recommend taking. If you have to do a second phase, just reset, do the same thing you did for the first phase until you get to damage, and then kill the boss and move on to the next encounter. Once the boss is dead, hop down the portal and go into the Wasteland. In the Wasteland, the most important thing you can do is keep an eye on where the Minotaurs are in relation to you and all the other ads. You don't need to kill the Minotaurs if you don't have to, but I would recommend knowing where they're at so you don't get stuck between them and all the other ads and risk potential death because you had nowhere you could go. This encounter is simple. Find the blights, clear out the ads you need to, and switch to Anarchy for this because one Anarchy shot will kill the blights, making it very fast and very easy to focus on not dying to any of the ads around. I would recommend taking Mountaintop out and shooting it at the hobgoblins that are sniping at you, as one hit to them will kill any of them. Just watch out for their darts that come after you hit them. Do this at all 3 of the places where the blights spawn, and then head to the Hexahedron Encounter, also known as the Square Room of Rotating Death. The Hexahedron Encounter is going to be the hardest encounter for a lot of people because of the amount of stuff that's going on and the number of ways you can die and get hit by the enemies. But it is easy to control the madness if you take out the adds in the right order. For starters, I was using Mountaintop for this encounter along with the Fallen Guillotine. Mountaintop with Taken Spec on is a one-hit kill on a direct hit against the Hobgoblins, which you want to do because you don't want to have to deal with all the Axion darts they shoot at you. It is also a 2-hit kill against any knight if you are at the proper level. When I start the encounter, the first thing I do is not take out the Hobgoblins, but take out the Acolytes that spawn, so that way I have space to move around and control the chaos with the knights and the Hobgoblins. You do not want to get stuck being attacked by all the Acolytes and the Acolyte eyes, and getting shot by a Hobgoblin, and having fire spewed all over you by a knight. So kill the Acolytes either with Ikelos SMG or by using your sword to wipe out the entire group, and then work on the Hobgoblins. Make sure to take your time in this encounter, as there's no need to rush it. Just be safe and be smart about when you're picking up your motes and when you're dunking. You want to make sure the room is as clear as possible before you grab enough motes to dunk, as once you have those motes, you'll be defenseless against everything, and that's probably when you'll die more often than not. Your super in this encounter is an absolute get-out-of-jail-free card. You will see one time during this where I panicked and put my super down because I feared that I was going to die. That's okay. The bubble is a great way to survive and take a second to breathe. So put your bubble down if you need to, and stay in there, regen your health, collect yourself, and then go back out into the encounter. If you feel the need to, you are able to wait at each room before jumping into the middle to collect ammo, recharge your super, or do anything you need to. It will take longer, but if you feel that you need your bubble back before you go to the next room, you are more than free to do that. That's a good option to stay alive. Remember, this is not a speed run. This is a solo, potentially flawless run, and all that matters is that we survive and make it to the end. Be aware of where there are holes in the ground so that you don't jump into them and fall to your death. There is nothing worse than thinking you're doing great and then suddenly dying because you weren't paying attention to where you were jumping. Repeat these steps for each room until you get to the 2 Centurions at the end of the encounter. For the Centurions, I put my bubble down on the one on the right, threw my oppressive grenade, and heavy attacked with my fallen guillotine. This should kill the first Centurion. After this, I jumped down and hid behind the platform where the first Centurion spawned, and used Mountaintop to kill the second one, taking care of the Thrall while I did it so that they didn't kill me, or jump in front of my Mountaintop and ruin the run. I've also heard that 3 shots of Anarchy is enough to kill the Centurion, so if you are using Anarchy, go ahead and do that. That's also a great option. Once you've done that, you are done with this encounter, and it's time to go to the Ribbon Room, also known as Rainbow Road. On Rainbow Road, just take it slow. There's no need to rush down it and fall off your Sparrow and jump off the edge. If you don't feel comfortable being on your Sparrow, just walk down the whole way. It'll take you a while, but you are almost at the end. Don't blow it now by getting antsy and trying to rush to the finish line. Be aware of any sniper vandals that are there. They shouldn't give you too much trouble, but if you need to, pop a mountaintop shot on them and take them out, no problem. Once you get to the final diamond room, be careful around the Thrall. Just take them out. I had Dune Marchers proccing on it, so they were gone in no time. And then I had a War Mine cell that popped up as well, which took out pretty much the rest of them. Move forward to the final boss room. The Kell Echo boss fight is, for me personally, the hardest part of this dungeon. But if you are smart and you take it slow, you can get through this without too much trouble. You just need to pay attention. The toughest part about this is that you will have the bosses firing at you all the time. So make sure you know where the geometry of the room is so that you can hide from them if you need to. Starting the encounter, what I do is put 3 shots of Anarchy down in a triangle formation where the Scions are going to spawn. That should hopefully take out all of the Scions. Having the Scions gone makes the room a lot more manageable, as all you need to worry about is the Knights and the bosses shooting at you, which you can avoid for the most part. Take your time getting your motes. Don't feel like you need to rush through the room to get to damage. You don't have a timer. There's no enrage state. It's just you and your wits during this encounter. Make sure when you dunk the motes, you kill the ogre immediately. 2 shots of Anarchy and a mountaintop shot should be enough to kill the ogre, so do that quickly. You'll see me put up my barricade to stop any extra fire from coming on me, which is a great way to stay alive during that. When it's time for damage, what I do is, instead of putting my bubble down at the start, I'm going to wait to put my bubble down at the very end of the room. So to start, I throw an oppressive grenade, I fire 2 Anarchy shots, and then start peppering the boss with Mountaintop. The most important thing about the damage phase is not damage, but killing all of the hobgoblins. The hobgoblins can ruin a run, as they will constantly snipe you, and you will be down to 0 health before you know it if you aren't focused on killing them. So anytime hobgoblins come up, forego damage to kill the hobgoblins. You're not trying to do this in as few phases as possible. You're trying to do this by staying alive. So kill hobgoblins, then go back to boss. When you are doing damage to the boss, keep using Mountaintop. Once you see that your Anarchy has run out, reproc Anarchy and go back to Mountaintop. You want to try to reproc Anarchy as much as possible, so that way you are keeping damage on the boss even when you have to kill the hobgoblins. When you get towards the end of the room, take out the 2 hobgoblins next to the portal you'll go through to go to the next phase and put your bubble down there. You want to stay there for the rest of the encounter, throw another oppressive grenade on the boss, and deal damage to him. This will be your best time to do big damage other than the start of the encounter. Once the boss goes away, run back through the room on the platforms to pick up any ammo that you might have missed along the way. That way you are set up to go for the next room. If you need to and you want to save your bubble or get your super back, go ahead and sit here and wait for your bubble and your super to recharge. You don't have a timer, so you don't need to worry about it moving you to the next room unless you get too close to the portal. If you step too close to the portal, it will immediately pull you to the next room, whether you were directly on top of it or not. So keep yourself down towards the bottom more so once the boss leaves if you want to wait for your bubble. After that, it is essentially the same thing over and over again, using Anarchy to clear out the Scions, killing the Knights, and then taking out Ogres. The other rooms can be a little more hectic than the first room, especially if you get the room with all the planets around it, as that room does not have a lot of cover, and I find that to be the most hectic room for me personally. However many phases you need to do, go for it. There's no need to get upset if you don't do a ton of damage. You can have this take 10 phases if you need to, or 1 phase. You're not going to 1 phase it, by the way, so don't even try. It's not worth the risk. The biggest thing I can tell you about this encounter and this whole dungeon is mitigate risk to focus on survival above everything else. You want to finish this potentially flawless, so it's not worth doing something that might give you a little bit more damage, but kill you in the end. So keep your cool throughout this encounter and take it slow. Don't be stupid. Don't make dumb mistakes. And you should be able to finish this. Just focus on hobgoblins and adds above everything else. Damage will come, but the hobgoblins can ruin the run for you. Once you kill the boss, your triumphs should pop for soloing it, and if you've been flawless, you'll get your flawless triumph as well. Once you kill the boss, your triumphs should pop, whether you've finished it flawless or just solo. If you finished it flawless, you'll also be rewarded with the Prophetic Visionary emblem, which happens to be one of my favorite emblems in the game. You'll also get a sparrow and a ghost for flawlessing and soloing the dungeon. And there you go. That's my guide for how to solo this dungeon. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did like it, please consider giving me a like, and if you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to me. You can also come hang out with me at twitch.tv/JRemyTheGuardian. The link for that will be down in the description below. But if not, thank you for watching today, and I hope this helps you solo this dungeon, and I will see you next time.